Okay, so I'm finishing up this coilover conversion on this truck. So this is a 98 Ford Ranger, and it was a four-wheel drive torsion bar setup, and I'm converting it to a coilover two-wheel drive setup. So my goal in this video is to give you a parts list of everything that I put on here, pretty much everything, and kind of how to do the coilover conversion, what I did, and then I'm going to assemble the passenger side. So I just went with a QA1 450 spring rate coilover. This is a 14-inch. I'll post a screenshot of the eBay auction that I bought these from. So what I did here was open up the top of the shock tower, and then I welded in some tabs and then welded in some gussets here to support the tower. You don't need to do this. I did this because I wanted to get the truck as low as I could. You could actually just bolt in a bracket underneath, and I could post a picture of a bracket that you could use underneath there. That would obviously raise the truck up a little bit, but my goal with this one, because it's a drag setup, is to get it as low as possible. I also use the factory shock mount with the QA1 T-bar set. So this T-bar comes with this bar and the two bolts and the nuts. I did go ahead and I did new upper and lower control arms because mine were all rusty, and the other side I had to cut out. And there's the part number for the spindle. And I'll post up the eBay link that I got these from. So essentially I did the whole upper and lower control arm kit. It had the sway bar link here, tie rod ends. That kit for the control arms was like 230 bucks. The spindle kit, rotors, bearings, everything else was like another 300. So including the coilovers, I probably have around $900 into the whole thing. I can total it up and get an exact number. So essentially what I did was get, I just searched for 2001 Ranger Edge spindle and Ranger Edge brakes and all that stuff. So essentially it's like 2001-ish Ranger stuff on here. So this is the two-wheel drive rotor. This also does have the bearing races inside of it. This is the part number AR8551. That's for the rotors. And this is what's going to go with everything. So you have a rear seal. You have the inner and outer bearings. You have a washer, a nut retainer, a cotter pin, and I just got that at O'Reilly's. And this little grease cap that goes on the end. So there's the part number for the seal, the inner bearing, the outer bearing. And then I'll post up screenshots for the eBay auctions that I got this stuff on. Like I said, this rotor already has the race, inner and outer race. So essentially this bottom section we're not going to use because it's already in the rotor. I'm going to put some gloves on, and I'm going to go ahead and pack the bearings. There's the inner bearing, and I'm just going to go ahead and put a lot of grease on here. Just make sure that this thing is really lubed up. I'll take the gloves off. So what I got here now is the bearing inside the rotor, and I'll go ahead now and I'll put the seal on. Alright, so I got the seal on there. I'll put that on and make sure that it sits all the way back. Pack the other bearing. You could probably just pack both of them at the same time if you wanted to, really. But I feel like doing them one at a time. So I'm kind of just going around making sure I get all the rollers on it, and then making sure that I actually spin the inner race. Kind of get everything nice and goobed up. So then this is tapered. There's a smaller end. The smaller end is going to go inside. So here's the two race pieces. This is for the inner, for the outer. Those are not going to be used, as I said before, because they're already inside the rotor. Next I have the washer. Washer is going to go against the bearing. Nut is going to go on. And I believe the torque spec is like 22 inch-pounds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten it snug just to kind of seat the bearing. Rotate this. And I'm gonna loosen it. I could be using an actual socket for this, but I don't know where my inch-pound torque wrench is. So what I'm gonna do is just kind of get it finger tight and then go just like a little bit more. This nut retainer then goes on. And then I'm gonna put a pin in it. Cotter pin. So that nut isn't that tight, but it will be held in there by that retainer and the cotter pin. All right, so next, this little cap. All right. So that's it. Now I'll put the brake rotor on, and that's pretty normal stuff. All right, so all done. Both sides, ready to go back on, ready to put the tires back on. Passenger side, still gotta paint that tie rod arm and like that upper control arm and stuff, but a little bit more painting in there. I'd like to paint the caliper and then get that thing bolted back on. But let's throw the wheels on and see what it looks like. All right, we'll do the obligatory lowering it down shot. All right. She's on the coilovers. All right, that's not too bad. It's probably right about where I want it.